right, good to see everybody. We'll just do a quick audio check. And if you all can hear me, and if we're streaming in 1080p, we will go ahead and get started. So if you can hear me, just give a thumbs up in the chat, and we'll get started here in just a moment. All right, so we're looking good. We'll go ahead and get started. Just want to let everybody know we do not have the microphone tonight, so just please mind the wind noise. There may be some wind in the microphone. Well, welcome back everybody to Walks on Wall Street. Today is December 11th, 2023. It's about 8:52 p.m. Eastern time here live from New York City. We are back. It's been about a week. I took about a week off. I was in Miami, Florida. And I needed just to take a couple days just to kind of do things around the house, get ready for the new tenants to come in. And I also took like a day and a half, 2 days, just to kind of hang out down in Miami, enjoying the weather. Also, Art Basel was down there. Incredible trip, amazing place. Every time I come back from Miami, I miss it a little bit more each time. It's an amazing city, it's an incredible place, and I'm extremely impressed with just how crazy Miami has grown. I mean, I used to go down there 2014, 2015, and just to see the explosive growth down there, just so exciting. It's awesome. It's truly a great American city. But we're back in New York, we're back to reality, and we have a lot to talk about since we've been away. Now, tomorrow, just real quick, we'll get some announcements out of the way. Tomorrow's a big day, okay? Big day on Wall Street, because tomorrow we are going to hear, well, it's the start of the FOMC meeting. So the Federal Open Market Committee meeting will take place tomorrow, December 12th. That'll go through December 13th, where we'll hear from the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Okay, very low possibility that we are going to have an interest rate hike to cap off the end of the year. It's more than likely that the Federal Reserve will continue to pause interest rates and just hold rates steady here. So if you look at the Fed funds rate, it's in a range of 5.25% to 5.5%. I think that's probably where we'll stay. It's going to be the last FOMC meeting of the year, and then it's going to be 2024, if you guys can believe that. Get ready for a crazy year. We're going into an election year, and I was actually pulling some data, doing some research here myself, which will be published in the next edition of the Behind the Street newsletter, which, by the way, I sent out the Behind the Street newsletter to everybody on Friday. So if you have not received that yet, go ahead and check your email, check your spam folder, because I sent it out. That is our bi-weekly research piece that I email out to everybody on Thursdays after the market closes. But in the next issue of the Behind the Street newsletter, we are going to be doing a historical research piece as it relates to how does the market usually perform during election years, okay, particularly presidential election years. Now, if you remember the piece I wrote about midterms, right, in the year during the midterm elections, we did a big case study about how stocks generally tend to perform during midterms, right? I think you guys are going to enjoy this piece as it relates to how stocks tend to perform during election years. So 2024 is right around the corner, just a couple more weeks, and things could get a little bit crazy here. I want to quickly check in on gold for a minute, because over the last few weeks, we've broken out into all-time record high territory for gold, but we had a major failed breakout. So gold actually got all the way up to about 2146. All-time record highs. Gold has never traded higher in history of the world. We've now come back down into that base. Gold is trading now below $2,000, and now it's yet again, currently, if you look at futures, trading at 1983 yet again. But we'll check out another form of gold. We'll check out the digital gold, the Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been on a tear as well. Last Friday, hit an intermediate term high of 44,846. Now we've corrected back some to the 20-day moving average. Bitcoin is very well extended to the upside from the 200-day and the 50-day moving average. We need to let those moving averages catch up, and I think we will continue to resume to the upside here. But I think the biggest topic that's sort of taken the headlines away is the general market in and of itself in terms of equities. We've broken above the 4602 swing high. That is the July 27, 2023 swing high before we went into this correction. We are now trading back above 4602, trading at 4622. Market again closing at the dead high of the day yet again. So looks like we have a little bit of a premature Santa Claus rally. We'll see if that continues, but I really think this market is watching for the conclusion of the FOMC meeting, which obviously is going to be on December 13th, after we hear from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Everybody's pretty much assuming that we're going to get a pause in the hiking cycle, but what I think is more important in terms of looking forward is Jerome Powell's forward-looking statements for fiscal year 2024. Goldman Sachs, BNP Paribas are two major banks that are pricing in rate cuts in Q1 of 2024. That's only in a couple months. I don't think so. I don't think we'll get that. Also, billionaire Bill Ackman has been making some major headlines. He said in a recent interview that he believes the Federal Reserve is going to need to cut interest rates a lot sooner than many people expect. He's also expecting rate cuts as soon as Q1. I don't think that's going to happen, but then again, I'm not billionaire Bill Ackman. All right, everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and close the laptop. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat, and it's good to be back in New York City. Now, once again, I did send out the Behind the Street newsletter on Friday. So if you have not received that, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, or you could type !news, NEWS in the chat, and the Nightbot is going to drop the link to the newsletter. And I wrote a really important piece, and I think this is very important that people read this, because in 2023, we lost three really major investing legends: Charlie Munger, William J. O'Neill, and Sam Zell. So this week's Behind the Street newsletter was a little bit of a tribute to these legendary, really amazing American success stories. So we talk a little bit about William J. O'Neill, we talk about Sam Zell, and obviously Charlie Munger, who unfortunately all passed away this year in 2023. They always say legends die in threes, and I think this is no exception. So let me go ahead and close up the laptop. Once again, check your spam folder if you did not receive the newsletter, and if you want to sign up, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen. I'll be with you all in a minute. All right, friends, we are here outside the beautiful Plaza Hotel right here in New York City. Also to our right, we have the Apple Store. Just go ahead and turn off the Wi-Fi here, and I'll get the QR code out of the way, and we'll kick this off. Let's see who we have in the chat. Hey, I see Alfred. What's up? Brian. Tone Rick, always a pleasure to see you. Michelle Frank, what's up? Austin City Limits, Joe Ratz is here. D. Lay, Sally, Crypto Meme, Dan is here. What's going on? Susan Wolin, British Gray, Michelle K, Michelle McGraw, Justin S, Lilla. Good to see everybody. Diego says, hey Tom, good to catch your stream. Carol Reevy is here. Lisa Davis, Edward Adams, what's up? Hello Mate 2008. Dr. Longus, always a pleasure. Welcome to New York. Hope you're well. This is the GM building right now. They have these two really big, beautiful Christmas trees right here. Hello Mate 2008 says, Tom, I loved your newsletter. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now, I actually apologize because, I was writing the newsletter. I was obviously in South Florida. I was in Miami, and I was on the road most of the time. So my internet was so horrible, I was not able to upload the property tour of our new development on 19th Street. So it's been a while since we've last talked. Our team, we sort of won the bid to take over a really interesting and exciting project on 19th Street, very close to the Hudson Yards. So stay tuned for some more property tours. One of our newest developments right there near the High Line, excuse me, not Hudson Yards, High Line, over there on 19th Street. Steph UF is joining us. What's going on? Positive says, hey Tom and everybody. Positive Energy says, hey Tom, what's going on? Good to see everyone. And Bighorn, what's up? RPT says, welcome back to NYC, Tom. Yeah, it's going to take me a little bit of time to adjust. I'll just say that. It was absolutely picture perfect, gorgeous weather in Miami. Now, the first couple days I was there, and we'll go check out the massive menorah that's over here. Oh, happy Hanukkah, by the way, to all of our Jewish viewers and listeners. I think it'd be appropriate to show you. I believe this is the largest menorah in New York City, right here. We just have to cross Fifth Avenue to do that. I know it is windy. I apologize for the wind noise in the microphone. But yeah, happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish viewers and listeners. But anyway, what I was saying is, when I was in South Florida, right, when I was in Miami, the first few days, guys, it wasn't that hot. I'm telling you, it really wasn't that hot. At night, it got down to 57 degrees, which, I mean, in Miami, that feels like it's 20 degrees. So it actually was really, really nice. Now, the last 2 days that I was there, it was the classic Miami weather, 80 degrees, bright sunshine, which was perfect for the Art Basel event that was going on down there. So I really enjoyed my time in Miami. I hope to be back very, very, very soon. It's just an amazing, amazing city. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I stand corrected. This is the world's largest menorah. I didn't know that. So this is some history here. The world's largest menorah. Wow. Let's take a look from the other side. I'm trying to read what it says here. Hold on, let me zoom in just so you guys can read it too. All right, so the menorah lighting time, Sunday through Thursday, 5:30 p.m., Friday, 3:45, and then Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. That's cool. We'll walk around the other side so you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, the city is definitely in full swing for the holidays. Almost every inch of the city is covered in some sort of, Christmas or Hanukkah decorations. So the city looks great. The city looks great. I'm happy to be back. I'm just not too enthusiastic about being out in the cold. All last week I was in shorts and a t-shirt doing some yard work. I was gardening. Yeah, it was just, it was awesome. Hey, Abdullah, what's up? Says, hey, Tom, good to be back in New York. Yeah, I'm happy to be back. And I'm happy to be back streaming, by the way, too. All right, so right behind the world's largest menorah, you can see the Sherry Netherland. This is one of my favorite buildings of all time. It is still a hotel and residence to this day. Vinny's is back from Tampa today. Can't wait to get back to sunny Florida. I know that first day back in New York is not fun. Let me tell you that. Definitely not fun. But look, I think it gives me something to look forward to. As we look out to 2024, I'm trying to plan out my year. I'm trying to get a little bit better. I'm going to try to maximize my productivity a little bit. And I'm going to be doing a lot of experiments, which you guys could follow along. But I'm thinking about trying to structure my life. This is a great shot of the GM building, by the way. What I want to try to do is structure my life to maximize productivity. Because a big mistake that I've made in the past that I'm sort of just getting around to realizing right now is sort of the law of diminishing returns and diminishing progress. And I'll sort of explain what I mean by that. And I think it's important because it also, ties well into the investment business too. You can work 70, 80-hour weeks, right? But there does come a point, right, where you can only do that for so long without having diminishing returns in your productivity, right? One of the best pieces of advice I was given is that, it's not necessarily the amount of hours you work, it's the amount of work you get out of those hours, right? So you could have somebody, just grinding their gears, right? And running around in circles for 80 hours. But you could have somebody working 10 hours that week that gets all the same things and accomplishes more. So, and it's so true. And I never really understood that. When you're young and you're dumb, you kind of, don't understand a lot of things. But I'm going to try to structure my life in a way that maximizes every second, every minute, every hour is accounted for, right? So there's no time wasting. Everything is, completely accounted for. And I think that's going to maximize productivity. So in terms of the geography in which I work, I want to try to do a 30-day, 14-day rotation. So 30 days in New York, rotate off 14 days in Miami. And I think that will give me something to look forward to, right? And sort of keep things a little bit more fluid. So if you're working, 20 days in New York City and you're kind of getting ground down and you're like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. You have that in the back of your head that, hey, I only have to do this, for 10 more days and I'm going to get a rotation off in Miami, right? And then get some work done down there. So we'll see if that works. I was reading a few books. I don't want to give out the name of the books yet because I only recommend books that I think that work and that are good. And so I've read this in a book where it's important to change up your environment in which you work just so it's not so exhaustive. So we'll see. We'll see if that works. I don't know. Anybody else have any productivity tips? Any feedback from that? Did you agree with that premise? Disagree? As we're here on Fifth Avenue, they finally put up this big sort of snowflake right in the middle of Fifth Avenue, which looks great. Hey, Brian Beck, what's up? Good to see you. Hope everything is going well in Texas. Patricia Johnson says lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, EMS workers, policemen, firemen, pharmacists. I did not hear about the building collapse in the Bronx. Hey, Simone Kelly says, Tom, do you have a preferred domestic airline when you fly to Miami? I fly American Airlines. Now, usually I just pick the cheapest. Usually. I used to fly Delta a lot because you get the free Wi-Fi. But I noticed that the Delta tickets are a little bit more expensive. They're always like $280, $300. So American Airlines has been working pretty well for me. Also, another thing. Here's the most, I would say, the most obvious reason for me as to why I choose to fly American Airlines. And this is going to be really helpful for anybody who lives in Miami, Florida. So if you live in Miami, Florida, definitely listen up to this. in the Flamingo parking garage, right outside of the Delta terminal. This is the Louis Vuitton store. But right outside of the Flamingo parking garage, you are allowed to leave a motorcycle, a Vespa, or a scooter for 30 days completely free. I'll say that one more time. If you commute to the airport, to Miami International Airport, you are allowed to leave your motorcycle, your Vespa, scooter, you know, whatever, just as long as it has two wheels, you're allowed to park it there at the airport for 30 days for free, which is unreal. So that's one of the main reasons why I fly American, is because I just park my Vespa and walk right into the terminal, and literally right into, you know, where I need to go, which is great. Let's actually check out the candy canes here. But yeah, I'd say American generally is the best for me. What about you? Hey, it's PB says Delta is very expensive. Adrian Palmos says try not to multitask. It breaks focus from each singular activity, as a result making you less productive. I'd like to see data on that. Generally, I agree. Just drive all your focus into one thing. Totally agree with that. Bruce says, how do you measure your productivity or success? A myriad of ways. So some sort of a customer relationship management software. So how many appointments am I setting, right? How many appointments have I gone on? How many showings did I do, right? How many listing appointments do I have? Conversion ratios of the emails I send, the calls I send, the dinners I go on, things like that, right? Because you really want to be present and you want to be sharp, right? I kind of think about it like playing a game of around the field. But at the 80th minute, I'm gassed, right? Second half, 80th minute, especially if you're a starter, you're pretty much gassing out. And that's sort of how I think about work too. So it's important to have your rest and prioritize your rest so you can, you know, perform on the field, right? If you're fully well rested and you step on the pitch, right, step on the soccer field, you're probably going to perform really, really well. But at the 80th minute, the 90th minute, when you're absolutely gassed, well, you're probably going to miss a few tackles. You're probably going to, you know, turn the ball over a lot, right? You're probably going to, you know, your passes are going to be a little bit off the mark. And it's the same thing in business. And I really didn't, it may sound obvious, but to me, I really didn't realize that until about 2 years ago. Because I think growing up in New York, especially if you're in sales or you're in banking or one of those very high pressure careers, it almost becomes like this cult mentality of who can work more hours. And it's a little bit dystopian kind of. But I think as you get a little bit older, it's focus on the results and focus on maximizing the productivity. Not necessarily thinking about it in terms of hours worked, but squeezing every last dime out of those hours worked. So who knows? Hey, Patricia Ivory, what's up? Good to see you. Trust you're well. Someone says hello from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Welcome everybody from Argentina. Now, I was in Little Buenos Aires when I was down in Miami, which is 72nd Street all the way to 85th Street, I believe, and Collins Avenue, called Little Buenos Aires. Beautiful, beautiful place. Wow, Vinny's like Frontier Islip to Tampa is $63 round trip. Well, that's the thing. That's another thing. I refuse to fly any discount airliners anymore. There's always problems on Frontier. There's always problems on Spirit. And I think when you get to a certain point in life, this was also a piece of advice that was given to me. When you get to a certain point in life, it's best not to cheap out on airfare, right? Because if you're working and you have to run from the airport to a meeting. You want to be well rested, and it's not worth saving the $100. Spend the $100. Be near people that aren't crazy, right? Like every time there's some wild event that happens, it's on Spirit, it's on Frontier. People trying to open the doors, people fighting with each other. So spend the extra $100, spend the extra $60, and be with normalcy. At least that's been in my experience. I don't want to deal with craziness. Hey, Matt, good to see you. Welcome. Lemonade says, I don't like American Airlines. If I can get on a flight in Alaska. All right. Hey, Kin is here. So good evening, Tom and everybody. Welcome. We are now outside of the Trump Tower. Maybe we'll take a little bit of a detour inside. NG says the closest thing to a budget airline I'll fly is JetBlue. I've never had any problems on JetBlue. JetBlue has always been relatively nice, at least for me. I've never had one problem. But Spirit, nah, I don't think I'd ever fly there. Hey, it's PB says Miami relatively safe place to live. My cousin just came back to from Orlando, and he says it was really bad. Yeah, Miami's like paradise. The place is clean. It's just, that was another thing. Not to, be super negative, but it was such a jarring, experience coming from, Miami, Florida, particularly Surfside, Bal Harbor, North Miami Beach, downtown Miami, Brickell, coming from there and having everything be super, super clean, right? Almost zero homeless, zero people doing drugs on the street. And then, coming off the plane and taking the airplane or taking the air train to Jamaica Station. And Jamaica Station is pretty much just one massive homeless dystopian encampment. It's so disturbing. I actually had to take a video and send it to my friends. I was like, dude, can you believe this is what Jamaica Station has turned into? It's close to like San Francisco in there. It's so bad. Heroin needles all over the place, people defecating inside the station. It's just absolutely a disgrace. Horrible. Anyway, this is the inside of Trump Tower, which I think is really nicely decorated for the holidays. Hopefully the internet holds up in here. We'll try to walk all the way to the back. I think the internet starts to get spotty right around here. And let's head back out to Fifth Avenue. But yeah, I mean, look, I think on a positive note, I think the city is going to take care of the problems, and I think it's going to get a lot better. At least that's my hope. But it's just talk about a stark contrast, right? A huge, huge stark contrast from being in, South Florida, Art Basel, and everything is like a utopia. Everything is so clean. It's like you could eat off the floor down there. And then just to see the total difference, Jamaica Station and Penn Station, I just think it's a big black mark on not only the city but on the country. Because when you see stuff like that, yes, it's dirty, yes, it's not a good look, but real people, right, are suffering. Right, these are real individuals that are, passed out, probably overdosed on fentanyl in Jamaica Station. These are real Americans. These are real people that we should care about. So it's sad. It's really sad. All right, everybody, we are now walking down Fifth Avenue. And I wonder why there's so many police barricades up. I know, but I think they did a good job here on Fifth. Hey, Stephen Bate, what's going on? Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I see Leo Vess says hi. What is going on? Ernie, welcome. Ronix, what's up? Hey, love the beach. Hey, Tom and everybody. Good evening. Good evening to you. I think I told you guys the story about this pane glass window here. This used to be right in this building, I think called Frederick Fakai, like a very big hair designer, like haircut place. And supposedly those stained glass windows are worth like $1 million just on their own. SME Media, you're right. Says the barricades could be from the increased pedestrian traffic, and it's probably going to be a lot more headed right into the Christmas week too. It doesn't seem too busy today, but I was talking to some of my contacts at some of those hotels, particularly like the Park Hyatt and the like, and they've been totally full. Like they've had almost 100% occupancy at the Park Hyatt, which is the 5-star hotel that's right inside 157. And those are going for like $1,100 a night just for the hotel room, $1,100 per night. So, it's good to see that, the city's back in action, particularly the higher end hotels. Hey, says any recommendations for a 30-day stay, corporate housing in New York City? You can honestly get some pretty good deals on Airbnb still. So if you look at like studio apartments on the Upper East Side of Manhattan or the Upper West Side of Manhattan, you could probably get a studio for like $2,500 for the month if you're staying for corporate travel, and it'll be totally furnished too, which is great. So I think Airbnb is a pretty good option, particularly for long-term stays. You could definitely find something good there. If you send me an email, I could send you some stuff that I think you may be interested in. Hey, check the logics as you make New York City look good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ed Dunkel says, do you like Blue Ground? So I don't like Blue Ground, but I do like Blue Ground. It's sort of a love-hate relationship. Now, I recommend Blue Ground if you have the budget to spend a little bit more money, because Blue Ground has a lot of fully furnished apartments that are professionally managed. So what I mean by that is a lot of the properties, or if not all the properties on Blue Ground, are professionally managed by the company. Airbnb, right, you could just be staying in any random person's apartment. So you're gonna pay a premium for that. So if you compare the rates on an Airbnb to a Blue Ground, you're gonna pay at least a 20 to 25% premium on Blue Ground. But I mean, they're staged nice. If you go to blueground.com, and you look at some of the units, at one point in time, I was looking to rent a fully furnished apartment there. But some of them are like $4,500 a month and up, which is just a little bit too pricey for a studio, in my opinion anyway. Hey, City Walks with Estelle. What's going on? Good to see you. Hey, Smee Media, very cool. So my mom went to see the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree this week at lunchtime. She said she got hit with multiple strollers in the crowds. Yeah, I can imagine how busy it is, particularly now that we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, for sure. Stephen Bates is $4,500 for a 2-bedroom or a studio. No, that's a studio apartment. If you want like a 2-bedroom on Blue Ground, you're looking over 10 grand. Easy. If you want a 2-bedroom, fully furnished apartment on Blue Ground, that's over $10,000, easy. Now, right as we get to the corner here, we're gonna have a really good shot of one of my favorite buildings in the entire city, St. Thomas Church. Now, did anybody hear that Ken Griffin of Citadel Securities has now tapped into St. Patrick's Cathedral's air rights so they could build their mega tall skyscraper a little bit higher? Anybody see that? Kind of cool. Check out the Bloomberg article about it. A buddy of mine sent it to me today. So as we know, right up and down Park Avenue, there's a lot of major banks and financial institutions that are building beautiful Class A office towers. Particularly, most notably, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase is building out the brand new 270 Park Avenue. Which is beautiful. But our good friend Ken Griffin of Citadel Securities, who actually just moved their corporate headquarters from Chicago down to the 305 in Miami, they're building a massive mega tall Class A office tower on Park Avenue, and they actually are using some of the air rights over St. Patrick's Cathedral so they could build a little bit higher, which is very, very interesting. All right, let's make a little bit of a move around here. It looks like there's some construction going on. This is going to be an office tower too. I guess it looks like they already broke ground on it. This is the owner's Rolex Realty Company. Go around the Maybach here. Now there's always traffic on Fifth Avenue headed downtown during the holidays because you have Saks Fifth Avenue in the distance, and everybody's stopping to take a look at the holiday light display that's up there, which we're going to see here in a minute. Hey, Jonathan from Florida, good to see you. I'm definitely a little bit sad that I'm not in South Florida anymore, but I'll be back there in about a month. Definitely enjoyed my time. Definitely enjoyed my time. Hey, Joe's here. This is Tom. Beautiful night. Can Logan and Ashley get a shout out? Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah to everybody. Thanks so much for watching. All right, now so we can started to see some pedestrian traffic picking up. My body is still adjusting to the colder temperatures. Even though it's not even that cold out, I'm like shivering and stuttering. It usually takes me a couple days to adjust back to New York. Because you know what? I mean, when I'm in Florida, I just wear shorts and a t-shirt every day and I'm riding around in the Vespa. That's all I do. Nothing else. All right, this is the Cartier store. Right here on West 57th Street, or excuse me, West 52nd Street and 5th Avenue. Definitely a beautiful looking store, but I think the display looked a little bit better last year, not gonna lie. Now, for those of you who are just joining, tomorrow is going to be a pretty big day on the street. Tomorrow is the official start of the FOMC meeting. This is going to be the last Fed meeting of the entire year, the Federal Open Market Committee meeting. And that's going to take place tomorrow and Wednesday. So on Wednesday's stream, it's probably going to be the most important stream of the week. We're going to go line item by line item, breaking down the Fed chair's speech. And we're going to see if he comes off quite hawkish. We're going to see if he comes off dovish. We're going to see. I mean, I don't think he has a choice but to come off as a bit hawkish. Because, you know, and we sort of talked about this before. In my view, the number one thing the Fed needs to do is get shelter costs down. And one of the narrative busters that we talked about in this week's Behind the Street newsletter that I wrote is home builder stocks are hitting all-time record highs, right? One of the best performing groups in the market is home builders, right? Toll Brothers, D.R. Horton, Taylor Morrison Home. All these stocks are hitting 52-week highs and all-time record highs. So there's a few reasons why, you know, home builders, new development is doing a lot better than resales. But, you know, if the Fed comes off tomorrow and the next day as incredibly dovish, I think that could spark, you know, some more activity, which is exactly the opposite of what the Fed wants. Oh, look at this. I like that painting in the back. Yeah, Alex S. Gas is down. It's true. Now, crude oil is now back down. Where's crude trading at tonight? Oh, no, I'm not, but happy Hanukkah.
You're Jewish?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, God bless you.
Happy Hanukkah. Take care. But crude oil is another narrative buster, right? Now, in March of 2022, crude was trading at $130 a barrel. Now we're back below $90 a barrel. So that is translated to, it was almost an accident right there. Almost rear-ended that guy. I don't know if you guys saw that. But that's translated to significantly cheaper prices at the pump, which is good, particularly during the holiday season where, you know, many Americans are traveling across the country. That's what we want. We want lower fuel prices. And that's exactly what we're going to get and have been getting. So a lot of narrative busters out there. This is 645 5th Avenue. This is the Olympic Tower. Hey, Dan Zhang says, hey Tom, I feel like you went to Miami for several days. We were there for several days. I was there for a week. Week flew by. Oh, by the way, happy birthday to Dan Zhang, our good moderator. I think it was his birthday 2 days ago, so happy birthday to Dan. Hey, Sun Girls, hello Tom from Orlando, Florida. Joel PM says, good evening Tom, enjoying your stream as always. What's up, Joel? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, it's first stream back in New York City. We got to get back into the swing of things, right? Cody, what's up? Welcome. Now this is St. Patrick's Cathedral. Wow, forward goes to $79 oil, wow. Yeah, Zozo Bob says, Tom, crude oil is lower than when Biden took office. That's 100% correct. And, you know, this is why, and Zozo Bob, good to see you, by the way. And this is why it's so important when you're in the investment business to be apolitical. Now, you could have your political biases, right? You could be a Democrat or a Republican. You could support Joe Biden, or you could support, you know, Trump, and that's fine. But if you want to make money, right, you got to be apolitical, because, you know, the markets are rallying back towards all-time record highs. And there's some people out there, right, that may be a conservative or Republican, that they have their political biases to say, oh, the economy is horrible, everything sucks because Joe Biden's in office, and it keeps them out of these, you know, monster rallies, and vice versa, right? So it's important to sort of be apolitical and kind of understand where things are. I mean, how many people were calling for $200 a barrel crude oil because Joe Biden is going to kill the oil and gas sector and all this other stuff? Never happened. If anything, crude oil is cratered from $130 a barrel down to now below 80. So it's important to be apolitical. It's important to follow the market, and don't let your own personal political beliefs get in the way of developing an investment thesis or an investment framework, right? But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams every single day starting at 8:30. We'd love to have you here along for the ride. Alfonso, that's another true thing. Says U.S. oil production at an all-time high, even though at the beginning Joe Biden seemed to be a bit anti-oil. You know, that's another reason why I sort of stay out of the whole politics stuff, is because politics is mainly about having the gift of gab and being deceptive. And that is absolutely true. Oil production in the United States is at an all-time record high. We've never been pumping as much oil as we are today, right now. And this is all while, you know, the Democrats in office say that, you know, we need to cut back on production of fossil fuels, when we are pumping and drilling like crazy, which is good. That's actually a good thing, right? That's very good. So yeah, it's important to stay sort of apolitical, I guess. Someone says, how are the gas prices in Miami? Not bad. I mean, I don't really pay attention to the gas prices. I only ride around in a little Vespa. It only takes a gallon of gas. I've just noticed there's a lot more diversity in prices in South Florida for whatever reason. Like, some gas stations will be $3.80, and then some will be like $2.90, which is strange. Some will be even less than that. I don't know why that is. But now we're headed towards a lot of the pedestrian traffic here. Wow, look at that. Tons of people out tonight. thing in Miami is just $2.85 a gallon. Hey, Brad's Brain says, I read an article where it says the rally is just beginning next 2 years off to the races. I think I agree. It's very possible. It's very possible. And I think AI is going to play a lot into that. Because if you just if you run the numbers and you do the math, and if just a fraction of what they're saying about artificial intelligence is true, and machine learning, and even just robotics in general, automation, I mean, that's going to take gross margins at some of these companies and freaking blow the doors off the joint, right? You know, I know someone who's very, very high up in Chipotle that was telling me all about their, you know, plans for totally automating the entire stores. We talked about Sweet Green, right? That's another sort of QSR restaurant that is totally in the process of revamping their stores to sort of make these ghost kitchens, right? Think about all of the shrinkage and the shrink that takes place at a lot of these QSR restaurants from just the employees, right? One of the things that people don't realize is in the headlines right now, there's a lot of talk about theft from customers, right? Coming in and stealing things. But do you know what actually is the number one, I should say, biggest problem with running a business? It's not external theft, it's actually internal theft. So as you digitize and streamline these processes in-house, right, make everything, you know, robotics, that's going to pretty much bring that to zero, right? Think about how much that's going to expand gross margins. If you have nobody inside the Chipotle to, you know, scoop out the chicken or the beans, and a robot is just doing that automatically, that is going to create so many efficiencies and save on food costs, save on labor costs. So profitability and gross margins are going to go through the roof. And what drives the stock price? Well, it's earnings and liquidity. And you're going to get a lot more earnings with a lot more efficiency. And I think that's what's coming. All right, what do you guys think of the Christmas tree here at Rockefeller Center? Looks pretty good. 350 mile per hour media. Just think how many jobs will be displaced. I won't support that ever. I will. I'll support it with both fists. Charge ahead. Because it's the same thing in every business cycle, okay? Since the beginning of time. Things are disrupted and they're replaced with better products and services. Jobs are destroyed, people lose their jobs, and that's a good thing because what is then created are better jobs, which are almost 100% of the time better paying and less tedious, right? Way, way less tedious. In my view, right? I mean, have you ever visited, like a big manufacturing center? I remember when I was a pizza delivery kid, I would deliver pizzas to this cardboard manufacturing plant, and they would essentially make cardboard boxes. And I would watch the men and women on the floor of this factory, and they were just making cardboard boxes, right? And it was so tedious, and the job looked so grueling, and everybody looked totally burnt out. That can be replaced with robots, and I think that should be replaced with robots. And with that, there's going to be more jobs created in other fields that are better paying, but it's going to require a different set of skills, just like in every business cycle throughout history forever, right? When, the assembly line was created with Ford, think about how many new jobs that created, but think about how many jobs that destroyed. So it's always the same in every cycle. Jobs are destroyed, but new jobs are created, and they tend to be better paying jobs. I don't know, any disagreements with that? That's sort of my perspective on it. In my view. Hey, the LT Prod, what's up? Good to see you. Me Media says, did they make pizza boxes there? I think they made all types of cardboard boxes. Mainly like industrial stuff, I think. Well, anyway, it's really good to see people out and about enjoying the holiday season. Nako says people will need to go back to school, rack up more debt. No, not necessarily. Oh, is that true? Oscar Diaz says, hey Tom, the Wall Street tree is taller. I didn't know that. It doesn't look taller. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just the difference in depth perception, maybe. Hey, TK Porsche says, I agree with your description of past historical job creation, but what happens when those new jobs are done by AI bots? Well, I think that's, it's sort of the same argument in every cycle, right? It's always the same argument in every cycle. There's going to be jobs that you can't even think of right now, right? You honestly can't even think of those jobs. Now, many of you are saying, oh, this guy is he's full of, BS. What is he talking about? There are going to be these mythical jobs that you can't even think of right now. And my answer to you would be, yep, they're mythical jobs that you can't even think of. And I'll give you an example. Okay, think about the year is 1970, okay? The year is 1970. And what if somebody from the future came to you and said, hey, 1970s, TD, there's going to be a job called a Salesforce administrator at a company. And that average base salary for a Salesforce administrator is going to be $112,000. You're going to be like, what? A sales what? What is that? Just the creation of software in general, SaaS, cloud computing, has created so many jobs to where in the 70s and 80s, you couldn't even define it or even think about it because the technology didn't exist. So AI, automation, machine learning are going to create these types of jobs. When we look forward in 2040, there's going to be some other streamer, some other person that's giving this exact example, right? It could be, hey, are you the guy that does, the particle simulation on Mars? Oh, is that you? Oh, that's a really high-paying job. Yeah, I hear that's really high in demand right now. Are you the person who pumps oxygen from Earth to Mars? Or and I'm just kind of being a little bit silly, but that's how it happens in every single business cycle throughout history. There's going to be jobs that are created that we can't even fathom that are real jobs. It's going to be wild. All right, let's cross back over to Madison Avenue. And then by that time, maybe the crowds will be a little bit less. Hey, Dan H. is 110% agree with you. Good to see you, Dan. Keith says, Tom, I like what you said about getting a better job. That's soft in the robot talk. Yeah, I tend to be an eternal optimist. And I think the big debate right now is technology going to create a dystopian hellscape, or is it going to create a utopia? I think it's going to create an amazing utopia. That is what I think. I don't think it's going to be this crazy negative picture that a lot of people are painting. I believe the reason why people are painting that picture is because it drives clicks, it drives views, and that drives advertising revenue. So, just think about it. Ask yourselves, and I think I got to plug in my phone before it dies. But many of you work in tech. Many of you work in finance, fintech, and whatever. When you go to work every day, do you spend all of your time, in a cynical position where you're, engineering software that's going to make our lives hell? Or are you dedicating your life to making software that's going to make our lives better, right? Making products and services that are going to make our lives better, right? We live in free market capitalism. And if somebody makes a product or a service that makes your life a living hell, well, not many people are going to buy that product or service, right? So capitalism is essentially built, it's a fail-safe built in to allow prosperity, goodness, right? Not, this sort of dystopian style, Terminator-esque idea of the future that many people tend to paint. At least that's my view on it, anyway. All right, I gotta plug in my phone here in a minute. Oh, no way. Life, liberty, and guns. It says AutoCAD is being replaced. I took every single AutoCAD course in high school. Hold on one second. Okay, we are good. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to plug in my phone really quick. It is winter time now, and that means the battery drains a lot faster, unfortunately. Try to travel. Says new, better jobs for new fields of work innovation. Agreed. Hey, JC, what's up? Says the only issue I have with most AI models is it's biased. Yeah, we could have a conversation about this all night, because essentially with AI and machine learning, if you have everything that you see now is narrow AI. Does that make sense? So everything we have, hold on, this picture caught my attention. I really like that art. Alec Monopoly. Now, everything that we see now is considered narrow AI, right? Where you feed a machine a bunch of data, right, and it spits out an answer, right? And so you train the machine by feeding it a billion different things, right? So if you need a machine to identify what a butterfly is, well, what you do is you train that algorithm to identify butterflies by feeding the machine hundreds of thousands and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of images of butterflies. And you tell it, okay, this is a butterfly, this is a butterfly, this is a butterfly. So when the machine sees it, right, it can identify, oh, boom, butterfly, right? So general AI, which I think is very, very far away, in my opinion. Now, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a technologist, right? My background is in tech, but I was on the sell side. I was an engineer. I do know how to build software generally, but not advanced. But anyway, the general AI is the boogeyman that everybody talks about. And I think it's funny how everybody like hyper focuses on general AI, particularly the media. And we don't even, it's not even real yet. We don't even have it yet. And that is essentially having AI and the machine having total synergies with the person, right? Being able to, talk with the person, think for itself, and sort of be a sentient being. But narrow AI is generally what you see each and every day. That is like a form of ChatGPT where it essentially just scours other data on the internet to spit out an answer, right? There's a really good book I'd like to recommend. It's a really, really good book, by the way. I think this would be a perfect book to get somebody for like a holiday gift, particularly with Christmas coming up. It'd make a really good, stocking stuffer, things like that. It's called AI Superpowers. Once again, the book is called AI Superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee, Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. Now, Dr. Kai-Fu Lee was the president of Google China. So he was trying to lead up the Google search in China, in mainland China during the tech and telecom bust, which essentially it was a failure, mainly because the Communist Chinese Party didn't want, American companies doing business in China. But we'll wait till the ambulance goes. But he sort of went on to create his own venture capital firm called Sinovation Ventures. Sinovation Ventures. And essentially he only invests into AI startups in mainland China. And the book is really good because it gives you sort of a brief summary of the realities of AI and the differences between narrow and general AI, and what companies are using which technologies and how. So check it out. Once again, the book is called AI Superpowers. Great, great book. Hey, Nakos, what's up? Good to see you. Leda, what's up? Gail Arnold, good to see you. Hey, look who we have. We have our consultant, Techno Pink. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us and welcome to New York City on this very frigid night in New York. Steve's professional sports owners hope AI could replace athletes. Save $700 million on a single contract. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people are going to want to watch little AI robots walking around. Maybe, I don't know. Hey, T Nash. This is Tom. What do you think of AI applied to? Yeah, so there's a couple of companies that I'm watching right now that can sort of use like predictive analytics and essentially like substituting genes. I believe one of them is called CRISPR gene editing. I'm very optimistic on that. I was going to say bullish, but I don't think bullish is the appropriate term because people can misconstrue that as, buy the stock. But like gene editing technology is going to cure diseases in our lifetime. Like that's a really big statement, right? Gene editing technology will quite literally cure some diseases, which is just unbelievable. So yeah, like CRISPR gene editing and like. Now this is the Waldorf Astoria in New York. This closed down in 2017 and they're doing a complete rip and replace renovation and remodel. It's going to be a hotel and residences, but it's taking a lot longer than expected because the building is so old and it's such a massive building that let's just try not to get hit by this big Kubota. It's hard to do, total renovations on older buildings. And this is something we've talked about with, some of the older office buildings that people are thinking about doing, what do you call it? Condo conversions. It's a lot harder than it seems because the buildings are so old, the plumbing's different, the wiring's different, the structural integrity of the buildings are different, so it's hard to, blow down walls. Almost every wall is like a load-bearing wall. It's very difficult, super, super hard. This is the cause statue. Stephen Bate says, not sure if I agree with that gene editing that you were talking about. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but I tend to be an optimist about it. Now, I know a lot of people, hear that term gene editing and it could be used for bad, and I totally get that, but yeah, let me see who said that. Let me go back up. The comment disappeared. Hey, Juan Fernandez, what's up? Anyway, that was a really good comment. Somebody was talking about SpaceX and how going to the moon created a whole different set of jobs in and of itself, right? I mean, think about back in the 1950s. My grandmother told me a story once, and she was in parochial school. I guess that's what so this nun told my grandmother, because I don't know, my grandmother was young, and she said, I think we're going to go to the moon one day. And the nun was like, we're not going to go to the moon. What the heck? What are you talking about? You're ridiculous. God only created, the earth for humans to inhabit, not to go to the moon. That's ridiculous. And little did she know we went to the moon. And we're probably going to colonize Mars and live on Mars and be an interplanetary species within my lifetime. Like, that is the reality. So think about all of those jobs, right, that are going to be created, building new turbo booster rockets to send us to Mars, right? Now, I got to give everybody a recommendation on a video that I really think you should watch. It was the Barron Fund's annual shareholder meeting. Now, I forgot to program it into the Nightbot, but I will tomorrow. But the Barron Fund's annual shareholder meeting took place in New York City last week. And Ron Barron is one of the most successful growth stock investors in history. And his office is literally right up here. It's actually not too far away from my office. And he was giving his sort of keynote speech to investors, and he gave a really, really just amazing statistic about Tesla and SpaceX. And he said that there's been about 30,000, I forget what the exact number was. Maybe it was even 100,000. There was 30,000 applications for a little less than 300 jobs. I forget the exact amount. You could go on my Twitter page at Walks Wall Street and you'll be able to see it. He said it's harder to get a job at SpaceX or Tesla than it is to get into Harvard, right? Because all of the engineers, all of the rocket scientists, quite literally rocket scientists, they want to work at SpaceX because, you want to work at a company that's going to get you to Mars, and you could say, hey, I was the first person to engineer a rocket that's going to get us to Mars and potentially colonize it. So, I mean, think about if we have those jobs today, right? Somebody who's working at SpaceX as an engineer that's designing these rockets that are going to be able to take off, go to Mars, come back to Earth and land and reuse the rocket. What do you think's going to happen in 40 years? Like, what kind of crazy job is somebody going to have in 40 years? It's just going to be insane. It's going to be incredible. So, I think that's just another thing where, some jobs drop off, right? We don't have, people driving horse and buggies anymore, except the people doing the tourism around Central Park. It's going to be a completely new world with very, very lucrative and high-paying jobs. And I think it's going to be amazing. This is 270 Park Avenue right here. Topped out just 2 weeks ago. I know Josh asks who the hell would want to go to Harvard anymore. So you got to listen to what Ron Barron said. He's like, it's harder to get a job at SpaceX or Tesla than it is to get into Harvard. But it's like, from what I've been reading, I don't know why anybody would want to go to Harvard. Sort of, kind of making a lighthearted joke about all the crazy sickos that are leading all these Ivy League schools. But I won't get too deep in the weeds into politics. All right, everybody, let's head down, and maybe we'll take a little bit of a pit stop in Grand Central Station just so I can warm up a little bit. I still have that Miami mindset, so I got to adjust to New York City. Hey, Western Mass Dave, what's up? Good to see you. Happy holidays. Layda, hopefully you're well. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Sandra, says good evening from Massachusetts. Hope everybody's having a wonderful evening. Likewise. Now, just a quick announcement. If you guys have not received the Behind the Street newsletter, I sent it out to everybody on Friday. So go ahead and check your email or check your spam folder if you haven't received it. But if you're new here, every other Thursday after the market closes, I send out our free equity research piece to all of our Walks in Wall Street subscribers. And if you want to receive that every other Thursday at the closing bell, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, NEWS in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to our Substack. Now, on Friday, I wrote a really compelling piece sort of honoring the three investors that we lost, unfortunately, in 2023. They always say that legends tend to die in threes. Has anybody heard of that sort of saying? Like, notable people tend to die in threes. And on Wall Street, it was exactly that this year. You had Sam Zell, you had Charlie Munger, and you had William J. O'Neill, unfortunately, pass away this year. So if you want to read that article, I think it was called Lessons from Legends Lost in 2023. Go check it out. And some really, really good stuff in there. So if you scan the QR code, once again, punch in your email, you'll be signed up to receive that. Also, thank you. We're just approaching 3,500 readers, which is incredible, and about 60% open rate, which is a very, very high percentage. So thank you all for reading, and thank you all for sharing. Appreciate it very, very much. Very, very much. Ali Star says, Tom, I also recommend Chartbook. Oh, let me take a screenshot of that. Hold on. Thank you for that recommendation, by the way. I will check that out. Chartbook. Hello, mate. 2008 says, Tom, what is your opinion on the bid to buy Macy's? I saw that. Now, what are the two PE firms bidding for that, and how much was it? I forget the exact amount, but I'm kind of getting, well, I shouldn't say this actually, but it kind of reminds me of the Bill Ackman deal with JCPenney. Now, Macy's isn't, I shouldn't really compare Macy's to JCPenney, but I think everybody knows what deal I'm talking about, right? When Bill Ackman, Pershing Square, essentially, they were activist investors. Oh my gosh, it's so cold out there. He's an activist investor, so he tries to identify businesses that are good businesses at their core, but management is maybe just inept, right? And they're running the business into the ground. So if they can go in there and buy a majority stake in the business, they could get some board seats and they can make some changes. But maybe this is sort of what's going on with Macy's, but I don't think it's appropriate to be able to compare JCPenney with Macy's. But maybe something along the lines of maybe happening there. I mean, imagine if you can get, a PE firm or a big Wall Street firm to go in and acquire a majority or just even take over the company and have them build out a robust online sales platform. That could be a pretty good deal. That could be a very, very interesting deal. Okay, Hang with Mark Mob says Arc House Management and Brigade Capital has made a $5.8 billion offer to take the department store private. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really cover retail, and that's really not my expertise. I don't know, what would they change? I mean, they probably have, a plethora of things that they could change, but they would probably focus on, e-commerce. Because if you think about it, Best Buy is a very, very good business, but Circuit City was pretty much the same business, right? But the reason why Best Buy, right, and there was many, many reasons, but the most standout reason is because they really prioritized, online sales, in-store pickup, and creating that experience both in-store and online, right? Same thing with Target. It's true that a lot of people shop in the Target stores because the Target stores are so, people like it. But they've also prioritized their website for, online sales too. So maybe they'll sort of do something like that with Macy's. You never know. Hey, Juan Fernandez. Ackman has had some issues. Pretty publicly big losses. Valiant Pharmaceuticals. Herbalife and JCPenney. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's the beauty of Wall Street, right? And that's the beauty of the investment business. And I think that's why it's so amazing, right? Is because you could be wrong way, way more than you're right, and you could still mint yourself a billionaire, right? Because it's all about, and I was sort of rereading one of my favorite investing books of all time the other day, which is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, and by Jesse Livermore. And essentially, he was like, many people have this sort of in reverse, right? When they're in a winning stock, they're like, oh, this is so cool, I'm up 20%, let me take my profits and cash out. And then they're happy and they walk away with their 20%. But when their investment's down 20%, they never, cut the loss and move on. They're like, it'll come back, it'll come back, it'll come back, and it never comes back. So if you cannot have an ego and admit when you're wrong and when your thesis is flawed, and you could blow out the position and sort of abandon it, you can be wrong more times than you're right. And if you let those winners ride and you double down and triple down on the winners, you can make a fortune, a pretty big fortune, which is great. Hey, the AUS Fly Girl says, thanks, Tom, for the knowledge, great walks, and doing the extra. Thank you so much, AUS Fly Girl, for your very, very generous and kind $30 donation. I appreciate it very, very much. And thank you for supporting the live stream this year. And hopefully you have a very happy holidays. Thank you so much for supporting. Do one lap around Grand Central and then we'll head back. Now this is Zaro's Bakery. This place is fantastic. These are the famous black and white cookies. Those are awesome. Love those. Hey, Hawaii, what's up? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us on our first day back in New York City. So I'm also going to be compiling, so as we know, 2024 is going to be an election year. I know a lot of you are very excited about that. Hold on, actually I got to put you guys down for 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Intermission. How'd you guys do? It's actually quite peaceful in here today. I'll give you a shot of the ceiling. You can see the mighty bull. Now, one of the things that I was going to say is we're obviously going to be doing the sort of case study in terms of the overall stock market performance during election years. But we're going to get pretty granular with that. We're going to do stock market performance in an election year when a Democrat is currently in office, market performance during an election year when a Republican is currently in an office, and also when a Republican wins re-election or when a Democrat wins re-election and vice versa. So we're gonna get really granular with that data. But another thing that we're also going to explore in the next newsletter is the average duration. I'll just give you a quick shot of the chandeliers here. But the average duration of a true market leader, right? So in every major cycle, right, in every major bull market throughout history, what is the average duration in weeks that a stock has made its ascent, so to speak? And I think the reason why that's important to explore is exactly what we just talked about. There's so many people that they'll buy a stock, it'll go up 15%, they'll close out the position, and they'll be like, oh great, this is fantastic, I made 15%, right? You know, you're not really going to make the thunder money if you're just making 15. If you hold the stock for 15%, then you got to pay the tax. You're not going to compound out. You're just destroying your ability to compound out wealth. You know, so it's important to explore the greatest performing stocks of all time. What was the duration in which they've gone up, and what your opportunity cost would have been should you sold out of these leaders too early. I think that's a very, very important concept to understand. Like, why would, 5-6 years ago, why would you have wanted to sell NVIDIA at a 10% gain, right? When you could have sat in it and made 300, 400, 500%. So it's very important to understand that. And we're going to be outlining that in our next week's Behind the Street newsletter. So again, if you want to receive that, if you just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, every other Thursday after the market closes, we send that sort of research piece out. And this is going to be the last piece of the year. So it's going to be a very, very long and in-depth sort of research piece looking out into the election year 2024, and also a little bit of a case study on true market leaders. So stay tuned for that. Beautiful shot of Grand Central Terminal right here, as well as the MetLife building. All right, let's head towards Library Way. I feel like it warmed up significantly. And we'll make a right on East 41st Street, also known as Library Way. And this is going to be a great view of the Stephen Schwarzman building, the New York Public Library. Hey, John Kelly, this is Tom. I know this is a different beast altogether. What are your thoughts on handling BTC, a hold for years regardless of maybe a few 100% gain? Well, my whole thesis on owning Bitcoin personally is it's the only unconfiscatable asset out there, right? And there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world, and I think it's important to have, and for me, I can't tell anyone else what to do, but for me, I find it comforting to know that a portion of my wealth is in something that I solely control and have the private keys to, right? You know, I've given examples before about, you know, horrible things happening, like what happened in Canada, right? Only a couple 100 miles away from here, where, you know, if you protested the lockdowns, we turn you off. Literally, they turned their own citizens off. They debanked, they deplatformed their own citizens in Canada. You know, the politicians now are doing the right thing and apologizing. They're coming out and saying, hey, you know, we shouldn't have debanked you. We shouldn't have deplatformed you just because you were protesting the pandemic lockdowns. But, you know, anybody in any government right now could go in and turn your bank account off overnight. It could happen right now to any of us. So to have, you know, a portion of your net worth in something that is totally unconfiscatable, I think is worth it and warranted a position, at least to me. Maybe not to other people, but at least to me. That is why I own it, and I, you know, continue to have it. This is the garbage elevator. Very nice. Wendy England says, Tom, they were doing a bit more of the protesting. Okay, so let's say even they were doing a bit more of the protesting. Do you think that warrants the government to turn your money off and to jail you and to deplatform you from society? I say no. But then again, I'm a freedom-loving American, and I'm not a Canadian. Nothing against Canadians, by the way, but yeah, I wouldn't have allowed that. Hey, B. Cruz, good to see you. Carlos is here. Welcome. Now this is the Andaz Hotel. This is actually a really nice hotel. And I've just recently found out, I think this is part of the Hyatt umbrella right here. I've actually stayed in this hotel once. It's very, very nice. And some of their suites have like outdoor patio decks. Stunning here. This is probably one of my best, I would say one of my favorite views in the entire city. You're looking at the New York Public Library, the Stephen Schwarzman building. Absolutely amazing. Just the architectural integrity of the building is unmatched. Beautiful. It's unfortunate that the city has had to reduce the hours of the library. It's unfortunate. Hey, ETC33, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. We'll cross the street here. This is kind of a cool shot looking all the way up Fifth Avenue here. And here's a shot looking all the way down. I know, the lions finally have the famous Christmas wreaths on them. Look at that. Beautiful. John Kelly says, as Tom explained, BTC equals freedom. Yeah, and I mean, I think it warrants an allocation, right? I'm not saying load the whole net worth in the thing, but I mean, look what's happening in China right now, right? I'm not sure if anybody's following that, particularly with the housing and the property and the real estate. I mean, it's almost worse than 2008, what's going on there in China with real estate. The government's probably going to ban short selling, right, betting against the market, and there's a lot of very wealthy individuals in China that are trying to actively get some of their wealth out of the country, and the CCP is not allowing it, right? So again, with Bitcoin, you don't need any permissions. It's a permissionless system, you know, and it's a very inexpensive system. You could, in theory, if you had $100 million in Bitcoin, you could send that halfway around the world right now for probably $5, right? No permission, don't have to ask anybody. So, you know, you have, I think the cryptocurrency narrative, I believe, has been hijacked by a lot of opportunists to sort of sell a pipe dream about getting wealthy, right? And I think that's what the vast majority of people have in their mind. When they hear Bitcoin, they think, oh, it's a way to get rich. But I think these are people that really don't understand the technology, right? And they just are in it to, you know, try to make a buck or hawk, you know, some random altcoin on somebody, which are now, you know, deemed securities by the SEC, which I've told everybody about that for 3 years now. I've advised to stay away from a lot of the alternative altcoins because they are securities, right? Just because you call it a token doesn't mean it's not a security. You know, and I'm not even a lawyer, but I mean, I could still very clearly understand securities law. Anyway, but I mean, to have that sort of technology where, so long as you remember your private keys, you can have the ability to transact and transmit value anywhere in the world at any time without any permission. And I think that has value. I think that has value. At least to me it does. Maybe to somebody it doesn't, but to me it definitely does. and all different types of things that you could build on the network, particularly Lightning. I mean, think about what's going on now in the United States. You know, with the big migrant crisis, a lot of the migrants, what do? They work here and they send money back to their home country. It's called remittances. And with Bitcoin, you know, if you send money back over the Lightning Network, that is going to save those migrants a lot of money. Did anybody think about that? You know, what is the cost of MoneyGram? What is the cost of sending all these remittances back and forth? If you do that over the Lightning Network, it's pretty much almost costless, and it's so fast. So there's so much that can be done, which is great, which I think is really great. I think we just missed Bryant Park, though. I was going to quickly take a peek in Bryant Park, but I think it's closed. We'll go there some other night. I really want to get back down to Wall Street to check out the Christmas tree down there. We saw it on opening night, though, I believe, before we took a trip to South Florida. Wow, look at that. Beautiful tree in Bryant Park. Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, Jerome Powell is here. What's going on? Any foresight for what's going to happen on Wednesday? Jerome, you want to give us any hints? All right, TK Porsche, Tom, what do you think of Kathy Wood's $1 million forecast for Bitcoin? Insanity, or it's possible? I mean, I guess in theory, anything's possible. It's also possible. Well, actually, it's technically not possible for it to go to zero, but trade for like $1, $2, yeah, that's possible. Do I think that's going to happen? No. If, you know, just kind of like being silly to give a prediction, I think it's more likely that it trades at, you know, 200,000 before it trades at $1 again, in my view. And a lot of people are calling for these, you know, crazy, ridiculous, outlandish price targets because of, you know, they're like, oh, you know, when the Bitcoin spot ETF is approved. I actually don't care if it ever gets approved, because for me, the whole purpose and the value proposition of it is not to speculate on it. It's a sort of a fail-safe against, you know, a societal, not necessarily a societal collapse, but it's like a it's like a put, an insurance policy against craziness in and of itself. So if my value proposition for Bitcoin is that it's unconfiscatable personal wealth, and then I go buy an ETF, well, that violates the only thesis that I have, right? And that's something I was thinking about for the past year. It's like, you know, for me, you know, and other people may disagree, they have other use cases and value propositions for Bitcoin. The only one I see is that it's unconfiscatable, permissionless money. That's the only one. So if I turn around and then give it to Fidelity and say, hey, you custody this Bitcoin for me and I'll pay you a fee, well, then it's worthless to me, right? Like, I mean, Bitcoin doesn't produce cash flow. I can't improve the quality of the business. It doesn't pay a dividend. So why am I going to give it to Fidelity or T. Rowe Price or Jamie Dimon to custody my Bitcoin in an ETF for me and pay them a couple basis points? I just think that's kind of ridiculous. But again, there's an old saying on Wall Street that if the public wants something, Wall Street is going to make a product and it's going to give it to them. Okay? If you know, if the public was so, you know, head over heels on, you know, betting on how many cockroaches there's going to be on the streets of New York, and there was millions and millions of people that wanted a product to bet on how many cockroaches are going to be on the streets of New York, Wall Street would make a market for that, and they would collect fees from it. So I think that's exactly what they're doing with Bitcoin, right? I mean, Jamie Dimon hates it. He thinks it's a fraud, he thinks it's a scam, but his bank will have products to service their customers to help them trade in Bitcoin. That is a fact. I can guarantee you that, because they make money from it. So do I think the ETF is a good thing? I guess, but I don't necessarily think we need it, in my opinion. I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Hang with Mark Mom says BTC is long-term for me. Yeah, just put it in a cold storage wallet and that's it. Line Sync says, just better hope that the event of a societal collapse. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I'm more talking about like a tyrannical government where I could just send it the money to another country where you could flee or something like that. But yeah, if in an event of a Mad Max societal collapse, the last thing, Line Sync, on my mind is going to be my Bitcoin. It's going to be, okay, how am I going to get food? How am I going to get water? Things like that. That's why I kind of have to, that's why I kind of take a lot of these, and we've talked about this before too, a lot of the channels that just harp on, you know, the world's gonna end, you know, buy these prepared foods and go live in the woods. That's really not a society I want to take part in anyway. So I try to just build a preventative measure to prevent society from going that way. Because even if I'm the most prepared person in life and society goes into total collapse, like, what am I going to be like, oh, this is great, I'm the one person that's alive in the woods eating these, you know, prepared meals. Like, that's a shitty life, in my opinion anyway. All right, we are coming up and we're going to see an amazing view of the Empire State Building here in just a moment. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually go live about every day starting at 8:30. We'll make it right by the Shake Shack. Ali starts again, totally agree, Tom. Not my kind of society. Yeah. Forget the preppers. Now, I'm not saying walk around life, you know, willy-nilly and don't prepare anything. Like, you know, you should have some prepared foods for like a hurricane and things like that, which I do. But some people take it like way too far over the top, where I think that energy allocated could be used better to, you know, combating the narrative in which you think is going to be the one that's going to overtake things, right? So building products and services that are going to be used for good, things like that. All right, this is one of my favorite views of the Empire. If you stand right in this corner right here, this is my favorite view. Right from 1333 Broadway. Amazing. Hey, Andrew says, hey Tom, good to see you. Back in the city. How was your trip to Miami? Thank you for asking. It was an amazing trip. I had an amazing time. Miami, Florida seems to get better and better and better every single time I go there. The energy was off the charts. It was just insane. It was an insane time. Yeah, and you know, I always tell myself, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the peak for Miami. Then we're going to, you know, go into a little bit of, not recession, but things are going to cool off a little bit. I keep telling myself that. And then every time I go back down there, it's like Miami doubles up again. It was insane. Now, granted, it was Art Basel, right? But so many people. And, oh, this is another thing I was going to say, right? Now, everybody, you look at all these, you know, Fox News polls, CNN polls, and the like, right? And consumer sentiment is at all-time lows. The average American in a poll said that over the next 5 years, they have a negative outlook on their financial well-being. But then I go to Miami, right? And I'm walking in downtown Miami. I'm walking in Brickell, Bal Harbour, Surfside, North Miami Beach, South Beach. And you would think you're in the roaring 20s, okay? Like, you would think you're literally in the roaring 20s. It's the same thing in New York City. You know, when I'm, meeting people, showing people apartments, getting lunch or coffee in the middle of the city. It's like a boom town, right? So, I always go back to what Peter Lynch used to say, right? He would say sometimes, in the financial business, people spend too much time looking at spreadsheets and crunching numbers and looking at polls and things when they could just step outside, right, and just look around. Just step outside, look around, talk to people. What are people doing? Are people taking trips? Are people consuming different products? But I think with social media and just really media in general, it's exacerbated this narrative of just fear, and it puts people in the mood that they're not doing well when in actuality they are. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true, but this is a thesis that I've been meddling around with in my head, because you could even do a case study yourself, right? Any sort of financial video that you see on YouTube that has millions of views, there's a 90% chance that that view is about doom and fear. It's essentially fear porn. You're watching fear porn, right? The biggest collapse since 2008. The American dollar is gonna be dethroned as the world reserve currency. Extreme poverty is gonna sweep across the United States. Joe Biden is gonna cast America into a dark age. And it'll get millions of views, and people will consume this, and it's like brainwashing, right? You convince yourself that it's true, even though, last week I just got a raise at my job, right? So I don't know. It seems like consumers are being rather resilient. I don't know. The LT Prod says fear sells. Hey, hang with Mark Mom. Says Tom, I talk to my community and ask how it's going. I don't go by numbers either, just talk to neighbors. Ali Star says, Tom, you need to give us your perspective of the art market from the Art Basel in Miami. What is going on there? What is the value of the art pieces and such? Well, I don't really know anything. I'm like the last person to ask about that kind of stuff. All I know is that it was a very fun time. I had a blast down there, and there was a lot of really, really nice. I think the value of art is subjective, right? Some person could look at a piece of art and say, hey, this is the best thing ever. And some person could say, hey, I don't understand this at all. But it was a very fun time down there. I loved it. My favorite museum, though, one of my favorite museums is MoMA, right here in New York City. I really enjoyed that museum, and I didn't think I would have enjoyed it as much as I did when I went there, and I think I may want to go back. Anybody else in the chat like MoMA? I think that's an amazing museum. If you have not gone, that is a must. That is 100,000% must go if you visit New York City. MoMA is amazing. Yeah, Layla, that's true. So this is Miami's busy season, and much of Florida, actually. That's true. The snowbirds coming down. Now, Layla, I will say, it seems as if every year since the pandemic, the on season in Florida has been happening like a little bit earlier each time, from what I've been noticing. And a lot of Canadians too. I've been seeing a lot of Canadian license plates down there. Oh wow, Carl Roth says MoMA discounts available for tourists. Very nice. Vinny says love MoMA, going on Saturday. I actually may go Saturday too. Vinny, I may see you there. That's so funny. That's so funny, actually. Western Mass Dave says, Tom, favorite part of MoMA? Well, my favorite part of MoMA, I think, changes every time. And not like my perspective on it changes every time. There's exhibits there that I think change. Like there was this one crazy one that I went to where you walk in a room, it's totally pitch black. You sit down on these beanbag chairs and then you watch like a 5 or 10 minute video. And this artist made like this crazy like psychedelic trip video. Now I don't do any of that like stuff, but I mean, I was pretty close to it being in there. It was insane. So I think they have like rotating, what do they call them? Exhibits, I guess? I don't even know if that's what you would call that. But I like a lot of the film stuff. I love the film aspect to art. I think that's probably my favorite. Hey, CA2SD. Thank you so much for your very generous $20 donation. This is Tom. It's been so busy at work that I haven't been able to catch up. We know you don't need these funds, but you deserve it. I appreciate you. You give us the best walks and talks. This is towards the Winter Coat Fund to keep you warm. I appreciate that very, very much. CA2SD. Thank you for supporting the channel this year. Thank you for supporting Walks on Wall Street. I appreciate it. And it's glad to have you back. Glad to have you back. And it's glad to be back. This is our first live stream back in New York City. Hey, Colton Manning, what's up? Says, wow, that sounds really cool. I'll have to put that down on my list. Yeah, dude, it's, yeah, I mean, you should go to, oh, that's right. You just moved into Brooklyn, right? So if you just got here, I would say this. Go to the Morgan Library first. If you haven't really been to any of the major museums in New York, I think you're going to be very impressed with that one. And it's actually not too far away from here. It's on the east side. I would say Morgan Library, hit that first. That's an amazing place. Then I would advise to go to the Henry Clay Frick collection. Now, unfortunately, the house, right, of Henry Clay Frick is under construction, and it's going to be like that for some time. And that's actually the best place. That's the best point of the museum in and of itself, in my opinion, is not the exhibits, but walking around his house, right? So if you do some research on Henry Clay Frick, he was one of the big magnates during the Industrial Revolution. And during his travels all over the world, he would accumulate like these amazing paintings, artifacts, and he put them all in his house on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And when he died, he said, I want to turn this house into a museum for everybody to enjoy. And when you walk around the house, you think to yourself, like, my God, there was a person living in here? Like, what? That's ridiculous. You know, I'm coming from my 250 square foot studio apartment, and this guy is living in this palace. It's just really mind-bending. So if you haven't been, that's a really, really cool place to go to in New York City. You're not going to see something like that anywhere else in the world. The Henry Clay Frick Museum, the Frick collection. Now, what they've done is they've taken all of the exhibits out of the actual house, and they've moved it about 2.5 blocks north. I forget the exact location. You could Google it, but I would check that one out too. That one's amazing. Oh, Guggenheim too. I like Guggenheim. Hey, buy the books as I want to go to the Morgan Library. Oh, you're gonna love that. That is a must. That is a must. Yeah, Herbert says, Tom, is it undergoing renovations? It is, and now there's some, I was reading some conflicting articles online last month about how long that's going to take. There's been some rumors that they're running into some issues with the renovation, which I can imagine why. I mean, it's a very, very old house. Yeah, but I don't know. Hopefully it gets done sooner rather than later, because once that's done, I'll probably be the first person in line there. and that's not joking around. Yeah, but it's awesome. You guys are getting me all hyped up to go see museums again, which is good. Maybe I'll go this weekend. Oh wow, we've been streaming for 2 hours. That did not seem like 2 hours for some reason. It felt like we were only on for 20 minutes, but we're over 2 hours now. Anyway, all right, everybody, if you enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We will be back live tomorrow at 8:30, walking around the city, talking about the financial markets, having a good time with the team. If you want to be signed up to receive our free financial newsletter that I write every other Thursday after the market closes, just scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, NEWS, in the chat, and you could click the link to our Substack and you could sign up for free. On Friday, I did email that out to everybody, and we wrote about 3 investing legends: William O'Neill, Sam Zell, and the legendary Charlie Munger, who unfortunately passed away in 2023. So if you want to learn a little bit of lessons about those investors, feel free to give it a read and let me know what you think. But Line Sync, appreciate you joining. Abdullah, Mohammed, Leitha, Joseph Hardaway, Austin City Limits, Hawaii, always a pleasure to see you. Buy the book. Kin, thank you, Kin, appreciate it. TK Porsche, Western Mass Dave, it's good to be back in New York City. Estelle, thank you so much for joining us. Two Wheel Freedom, Colton Manning, welcome to New York, welcome to Brooklyn. Dusty Cole, Andy from South Korea, Anging Haseo to you. Phil, Juan Fernandez, Sally, all of our moderators, CA2SD. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. And I will see everybody right back here live from New York City tomorrow. Take care.